Donald Trump has an issue with Elizabeth Warren. It might have been drawn recently from the fact that she said that she wasn't sure by 2020 he would be president or even a free person, but he got worked up over her and he turned his racism up to 11, tweeting this. Today, Elizabeth Warren, sometimes referred to by me as Pocahontas, joined the race for president. Will she run as our first Native American presidential candidate? Or has she decided that after 32 years, this is not playing so well anymore? See you on the campaign trail, Liz. Capitalizing trail. And although I wish I could say that this is a shock, mocking the Trail of Tears, mocking the fact that our government, as a part of a very long multi-decades campaign to remove and exterminate Native peoples in America, killed over 15,000 people. And he thinks that's hilarious. I got her with that.
Yeah, I am of two minds on this, and that many people suggested right away. I saw on Twitter that because the president is a fan of Andrew Jackson, that he has to know what the Trail of Tears are. And
I'm in that camp.
Right. Well, I read that instantly and thought, I don't think he knows what the Trail of Tears are. I really don't. I think he knows maybe that there is a thing called the Trail of Tears, right. But there's no way he's ever read about it.
Unless someone just told him about it.
He
knows it's a thing, but he has no idea what the context is. He just thinks.
So he might think it was a positive thing?
I think he might think it's a Native American thing. Okay. Right? Like he thinks it's the Iron Eyes Cody, who was not a Native American, by the way, crying at the trash. Like he's like that tier. I mean, he's so dumb and so out of it that it's just an irrelevant conversation because I'm certainly, yeah.
So look, you obviously don't support the president, so you implying that he's ignorant of history is a little bit biased. Let's turn to a supporter of him like Brit Hume, who says, yes, because Trump is noted for his knowledge of 19th century American history vis-a-vis the native population. Geez. Oh wait, that's the same actually.
Yes.
That's Brit Hume saying he's too stupid to be
well, in this rare case, I agree with Brit Hume, except again, obviously he meant to emphasize trail. Right, so you can't. I mean, it's capitalized, right? His cap lock key didn't get stuck, right? So he meant to emphasize it. I just don't know. You will never convince me that you'll never convince me that Donald Trump knows what Trail of Tears is.
I'm with Ben.
Ever in a billion years.
I'm with Ben, and I'm not saying it's not offensive. Everything that the guy says is offensive. Donald Trump, though, is manifestly stupid. He doesn't know anything about American history. He wouldn't know the Trail of Tears. He couldn't tell you anything about the Trail of Tears unless Mike Pence told him about it, like just before he tweeted or something.
Well, you know,
which is possible.
That's possible, right? Of course, somebody, because he believes the last person to talk to him, and if the last person to talk to him was Stephen Miller,
right?
Then he might have tweeted that.
And let me also just say this:
that I'll buy as possible.
A guy whose favorite president, he's got paintings of him all over the office, is Andrew Jackson, is already clearly a loathsome guy. Andrew Jackson is, again, a genocidal horror in American history. Shouldn't be on our currency. And if there's a way to erase him from our history, I wish we could do it. The idea that he's Donald Trump's favorite president is despicable, but still, I don't think Trump really knows the details, the X's and O's.
I just disagree. I think, first of all, I think that while obviously he was not a person who was thrilled to be in school back in the day, that was one of the, there's like 3 things you learn about Native American history, and that's one of them. It's not told in all of its context. You don't learn nearly as much about it. It's still told from the point of view of the government that was conducting it, but you do learn what it is in school. And also, we know that Steve Bannon did drill into him all of these great things from Andrew Jackson, said that he could be the next Andrew Jackson. Yeah, I mean, he's got the bust up. He visited his tomb. He tweets about him.
Which drilled into Donald Trump is that Andrew Jackson settled the West, and that sounds like a really cool thing. Oh, he settled the West. They gloss over the fact that he was a genocidal murderer. I mean, I guess that's redundant, genocidal murderer. But really, I think they gloss over the Native American history.
Interesting.
Anyway, okay. We can argue who knows, but
if I knew how to conduct a poll, I would call for one right now. I don't actually know how to do it.
We'll never know what's in his heart, except we know his heart is black and that he has been a racist for 35 years. So you want to say that he knew and this was a direct reference of sort of mocking the Trail of Tears? I'm really not going to sit here and argue it. I just don't want us to forget how profoundly ignorant he is and the fact that he has never in his adult life read a book.
Yeah, I sign on to that.
And the one last thing I want to say on this, on Elizabeth Warren is, look, obviously, if you're a member of any of those communities and you don't like what she had done for one or another reasons, people the narrative of exactly what she was doing at the time, people disagree on it. Exactly how deceitful she was being, or was she just misled by her family or whatever. But if you're a part of the community, you can be bothered by that, you totally can. But the people who are not part of that community, and like your friends that just make the jokes, or like Rob Lowe had to delete just a joke.
It's a good one, Rob.
Most of those jokes are just Trump's tweet, but not specifically about genocide. But it's still, the joke is the native identity, and that somebody would have it. Like his joke about commander-in-chief or whatever. Like everybody who tells those jokes is advancing the same narrative that Donald Trump has been trying to lay the groundwork for literally years. He didn't start calling her Pocahontas just because he randomly watched a Disney movie and it got stuck in his head. He wants you to think she's a joke, that she's irrelevant, that someone who's out there fighting and advocating for workers' rights every day, kind of ridiculous, kind of a loon. Don't listen to her proposal for a wealth tax or anything like that. The fact that she launched her campaign, I believe at the site of the largest strike in American history, ignore all of that stuff. She's a Looney Tune, you don't have to pay attention to her. That is his goal, and question, in the way that you talk about Elizabeth Warren, are you helping to advance that goal for him?
That's a great point. It's all to diminish her, and it doesn't really matter how you diminish her. I think that's precisely right. And regrettably, a lot of this stuff does stick. He is an effective messenger. I don't understand why, but again, in easy to understand, crazy man English, he's able to catch the spotlight such that we don't see a lot of what you're talking about, the legitimate aspects to her campaign.
It seems crazy to suggest otherwise because he was elected president of the United States, but he's such a buffoon, and he seems like, I think we've established that he's on some level a criminal. And a narcissist and a strong man, but he has political skill, and it's just not kind of political skill we were in any way used to.
Yeah, or would like to see necessarily.
Can I tell a quick joke?
Of course. I really hope it's not about.
Well, because so Elizabeth Warren. No, but I was reminded because I said Donald Trump's never read a book, and I'm certainly not the first to suggest that. But another guy who said some terrible things about Native Americans was John Wayne. In a Playboy interview in 1971, he said some pretty awful stuff. But he basically said, I'm paraphrasing, that taking the land from Native Americans was justifiable because they were selfishly trying to keep it to themselves. That's almost exactly what he said. It's a great. So anyway, but we love John Wayne. So the director John Ford, who directed John Wayne in so many movies, Peter Bogdanovich wanted to get John Wayne a book for his birthday, and John Ford, at that point, who Bogdanovich had befriended, was in bed, sort of sick, watching TV, and he was near death. And Bogdanovich went to see him, and he said, "Hey, the Duke's birthday's coming up. I want to get him a book. What do you think?" And Ford goes, "Huh?" And Bogdanovich scoots a little closer. He goes, "Duke's birthday's coming up, and I want to get him a book. What do you think?" And Ford goes, "Huh?" Bogdanovich's like, "All right, this is super awkward." He gets a little closer. "The Duke's birthday is coming up, and I want to get him a book. What do you? Huh?" He starts yelling in his ear, "The Duke's birthday's coming up. I want to get him a book. What do you think?" And Ford goes, "He already has a book."
Now I want to know what book it was. Oh well.
2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.